welcome to the Actual Tech Media EcoCast. My name is Jess, and I am excited to be here with you all today. But before we jump into our content, I have some basic information that I want to cover with you. All right, let's kick off our day here today by taking a quick tour of your audience console. And we're going to start with the questions window. So if you haven't already said hi, there is a whole audience of cool humans out there, so reach out and give a wave to the other members of the Actual Tech Media community. Now, keep in mind that if you do have any technical issues today, a browser refresh is going to fix just about anything. But if those tech gremlins are clinging on today, no problem. Just throw a comment in the question section and our crew will be there to help. We also want this to be an informative webinar for you, so throughout today's EcoCast, we hope you'll get engaged and ask all your burning questions. Not only will we have team members responding to you over a live chat, we will also have a dedicated Q&A session at the end of our presentations. Now, if we don't get to your question during the live webinar today, don't worry, because the awesome experts that we have here with us will be following up after we wrap. All right, next up, there's going to be lots of cool aha moments on the EcoCast today, and if you want to share those with your community, we've made it nice and easy for you. You can use the Twitter button right there in your audience console, and the hashtag for today's EcoCast will be automatically added to your post. All right, our last stop on this guided tour, be sure to check out the handouts tab for some awesome resources and takeaways from our speakers here today. We have an info pack collection, solution briefs, white papers, data sheets, free trials, ebooks, upcoming webinars, and more. So many great resources, so be sure to go explore. Now, if that wasn't enough fun, we also have some exciting prizes that we'll be giving away throughout today's EcoCast. I'm going to tell you a bit more about those later on, but a few quick reminders for you all. First, you do need to be here live in attendance at the EcoCast in order to qualify to win a prize, and we will follow up with all of you after we wrap. Now, all winners must submit an IRS Form W-9 to Actual Tech Media, and all winners must meet the Actual Tech Media prize terms and conditions. Now, if you don't know what those full T's and C's are, that's fine. We've got the full thing for you. Just head on over to that handouts tab, click in, scroll down to the bottom, and you'll find them waiting for you there. Now, the absolute most important thing to remember is that we love getting all your insightful questions during these live webinars. In fact, we love it so much that we actually have a special additional prize for all you inquisitive folks out there. So in today's EcoCast, we will be giving away a prize for the best question asked in each of our live sessions. Now, the expert speakers and teams will review all questions asked after we wrap the webinar, which means that even if your question does not get read out in a live session, there is still a chance to win. If you are a lucky winner here today and you would like to donate the value of your prize, we have several wonderful organizations that we partner with. So let us know when we follow up about your big win, and we'll get that rolling for you. Again, we are so happy to have you all here with us live at the EcoCast today, and we want to keep that good feeling going, so let's connect on social media. Reach out and connect with Actual Tech Media on Twitter and on LinkedIn. We have lots of great content, and we always want to hear from you. Now, if you're looking for more awesome content and resources right after we wrap the EcoCast today, be sure to subscribe to the Actual Tech Media channel on YouTube. Another fun way to win a prize and, hey, grow this awesome community is to refer an industry friend or a coworker to the Actual Tech Media webinar series. Now, you'll find a link to do that right in your handouts tab, and you will also be automatically redirected at the end of the webinar. And both you and your coworker or friend could win a prize, and we hold those drawings every month. So be sure to refer a friend because, hey, it could quite literally be a win-win situation. Next, we have a cool opportunity for all the decision makers out there to get connected with new and emerging tech and innovative vendors. Here's how it works. All you need to do is click on the link in your handouts tab, fill out a quick application, and the Actual Tech crew will then match you with some vendors that we think you should probably be chatting with based on your needs. There will also be fun opportunities that you get to choose to join in, like surveys, test runs, new solutions, extended demos, and so on. You'll get some chances to win extra prizes, you'll chat with great people, and you'll learn about the hottest new trends in tech. So be sure to apply, or hey, send that link to a decision maker on your team. Now, I want to take a quick minute here to remind you all about one of my favorite resources, and that is ransomware.org. You can find out everything you need to know about ransomware, how to prepare, prevent, and recover. This site is jam-packed with information, helpful tips, checklists, strategic approaches, case studies, everything you need in one place. So wherever you are in your ransomware preparedness journey, there is something for you at ransomware.org. Go check it out and start exploring. All right, I have one more exciting resource I have to tell you about today, and that is the Gorilla Guide Book Club. It's going to give you access to free enterprise IT books authored by top industry experts, so you can stay up to date on trending enterprise technology. And yes, these books will work on your Kindle, your mobile device, and as I said, they are completely free. You can download these awesome resources at gorilla.guide, and there's a link for you in that handouts tab as well. All right, well, we have covered a lot of important things already, and I don't know about you all, but I am excited to dive in. So let's get going. All right, my friends. Well, hi, hello, and welcome to the very first EcoCast of 2024. Oh my goodness, here we are. Today we are talking about, let me show you what we're talking about today. It's an exciting day. We're talking about understanding your cloud native data protection and disaster recovery options. What an awesome way to kick off our 2024 EcoCast, multi-vendor, all these awesome megacast summits. We've got so much in store for you this year. And here we are starting out with this cloud native data protection and disaster recovery options. I am so excited to get into this conversation with all of you today because there's a ton to explore when we talk about these unique opportunities and especially those challenges around securing applications and data in the cloud, right? And there's two very important factors that we have on our plate today. We're talking about protection and we're talking about recovery, because as much as we all want to believe that the worst is never going to happen, we're protecting, we're planning, and we're preparing so that we can all sleep a little easier at night, right? That's the important part. And luckily today, we are not alone in our journey. We are going to be chatting with top experts from Clumio and from Rubrik who are going to help guide us through this exciting conversation. Now, I know, and I can see in the chat here already that you guys are pumped up. You are ready to jump in. So we're going to go through a few of those usual housekeeping pieces of information and then get things rolling here today. Okay, if I haven't met you already, my name is Jess Steinbach. I'm a moderator here at Actual Tech Media, and I will be guiding us through this conversation today. But my fellow moderators, Scott Becker and Keith Ward, are here with us on live chat. And in fact, Keith is going to join us. He's waiting in the wings right now to get in with our keynote speaker. So we'll bring Keith out here in just a second. First keynote of the year. And we also have a special guest star here with us on live chat, and that is a brand new moderator, my friends. That's Mackenzie Pudici, who is here with us today, chit-chatting. So you will hear from Mackenzie on live chat. So keep those highs and hellos coming in and welcome Mackenzie to the crew. We will get him on mic with us very soon. So stay tuned for that in future EcoCast, Megacast summits. But for now, he'll be chatting with us throughout the day today. All right, and in even more exciting news, we've got some prizes. That's right, first prizes of the year. So today on the EcoCast, you could win one of three $300 Amazon gift cards. Pretty darn cool. I know, if any of you guys are feeling like everything just flew out of your wallet and bank account over the holiday season, a little $300 gift card could be great. So go ahead and stay tuned for that. We will be giving those away throughout the day today. Now, keep in mind that those full T's and C's are listed for you in the handouts tab if you need a little refresher on those. Plus, we have that best question gift card. I want to remind you of that best question gift card coming at you from each session. So keep those questions coming in. Get your fingers all stretched out, shake them out right now. Get ready to ask some great questions as we go through our day today. And I think it's about time that we kick things off. Speaking of our first EcoCast, let's get into it, right? So we have an awesome keynote to get us started in our session today. And that is because we are chatting with not only Dan Sullivan, but also our wonderful moderator, of course, the one and only Keith Ward. So Keith and Dan, I want to thank you both so much for being here with us today. Now, I know you've got a great discussion planned for us. Keith, I think you're going to tell us a little bit more about our awesome speaker here with us for our keynote, and that's Dan, of course. So Keith, I'm going to hand things on over to you. Take it away, my friend.
Hi, everyone, and welcome to this event today. I'm very excited about what we're going to be bringing you. But to start it off, we have got to have a discussion with a true expert in this field, and that is Dan Sullivan. Now, Dan is a cloud architect with many years of experience in public cloud. He's written about this extensively as well, and we are just so lucky to have him on today. Dan, welcome for this discussion on understanding your cloud native data protection and disaster recovery options.
Hey, Keith. Yeah, thank you for having me. Yeah, this is a really interesting topic and a challenging one. So I'm glad we have a chance to talk about it.
Definitely looking forward to getting started. So, first up today, how is protecting cloud native data different than on premises data? And what about hybrid environments?
Well, there are a couple of sort of big dimensional, factors that make it different. I mean, first of all, cloud native applications are really architected differently. So rather than maybe having, one or two or, two or three tiers, we have a large number of services. Many of these services have their own databases. So we have to deal with persistent data that's distributed across different systems. And typically we run these in environments like Kubernetes, where there's not only the data that we need to manage when we're thinking about recovery, but there's also essentially metadata about the configuration, which describes, well, how do you set up a stateful set or a deployment? So there's more that needs to be sort of captured to successfully restore, especially like in a disaster recovery environment. In a hybrid case, you actually have a mix of typically of both, where you have your applications that might be running on-prem, where you might have an on-prem backup solution where you're backing up to your own infrastructure. But in cloud, you might be using a totally different mechanism. You might be using something based on cloud snapshotting. So we have different mechanisms, which means different technologies, different processes and procedures, and different troubleshooting methods. So it really does get more complicated. Ideally, you want a unified single mechanism for managing all of your backups across those. But if you're doing sort of a split brain kind of thing where you have two different ones, it makes it more challenging.
And as you mentioned, significantly more complex too. So many more moving parts here, Dan, than you've
Yeah.
got in a standard on-premises environment for
Yep.
sure. So given that reality, is it a lot harder to recover cloud native data when disaster strikes?
Well, it's one of those things. If you have a solution that's designed that is built from the ground up with an eye toward cloud native applications, then it's much easier. It's more straightforward because you can take advantage of things like a backup solution that understands how to back up a stateful set in Kubernetes is different from one that backs up maybe a deployment. Um, and also, if you're in the cloud, you have advantages like being able to take advantage of like geolocation or redundancy across geolocations. So in some ways, it can be easier if you have the tool that's designed to sort of take advantage of what the cloud offers, and is also designed for the kind of the architecture of the system that you're running in the cloud. And ideally, you can do both. So if you can back up your on-prem systems into the cloud, you still get the advantage of like geolocation and the redundancy that we get with storage in the cloud.
Mm. So you may have a little bias here because you work a lot in the public cloud, but can you give us a kind of an idea of what it's like with using a SaaS or IaaS or PaaS, so infrastructure as a service, platform as a service, software as a service solutions, and how those compare setting up and using those for these types of environments with doing something in-house all on your own without any benefit of public cloud or hybrid solutions. That's a lot.
Well,
Sorry.
yeah, yeah. Setting up on-prem, I mean, it's like, the technology has, it continued to evolve like anything else, but it's still designed, in a way that leaves you as say, the on-prem system administrator. You have a lot of control. You get to set up your own policies, your procedures. You get to make all the decisions, like what kind of storage array do you want to use? So in some ways, the on-prem model it gives you the most control. But with the sort of, if you go toward a more IaaS or PaaS or SaaS model, you start to move into what is typically called the shared responsibility model. So the cloud provider or the SaaS provider is going to take on at least some of the responsibilities, like managing the physical infrastructure that you run on. So if you don't need to, say, control what hardware you're using for storing, if you treat storage as a commodity and you just want a certain set of features in terms of recovery point objective, recovery time objective, things like that, geolocation restrictions, those are the kinds of things that like a SaaS or a PaaS provider can bring to the table because they manage those things at scale. So it becomes less work. With regards to configuring DR, being able to say take for example zero redundancy, take advantage of that, so you can quickly set up a disaster recovery site in the cloud. Whereas if you're on-prem, then the question is, do you say lease other infrastructure, maybe in another hosting facility to have a DR environment that you then set up and manage? So it's a trade-off between control and shared responsibility. And the more you want to share responsibility, the more advantages you get around the data protection, especially, and around disaster recovery capabilities.
Given how sophisticated, cloud tools are nowadays for doing the things that you're talking about. I mean, if we're going to get real, it's almost unthinkable that that an organization of any size is going to be entirely on premises, just given the benefits, and a big one being, of course, that backup and disaster recovery options. Would you agree with that?
Oh, yeah. I mean, and again, as you pointed out, I'm biased. I mean, I see a lot of advantages to working in the cloud, and I've worked in this field long enough to be, have a good amount of experience in managing on-prem infrastructure and operations. And so, yeah, there's definitely advantages. And even if you're primarily on-prem now, there's still ways you can, using the cloud as sort of your for a backup service and for disaster recovery is a great kind of way to segue into working more with the cloud, because again, there are just so many advantages around scalable storage, the technologies, features like snapshotting and being able to air gap your backup. So if your on-prem infrastructure is compromised, you won't necessarily be a victim of ransomware because you have backups that are protected in a totally different environment. So yeah, I mean, there are a lot of advantages, and we could probably spend a day talking about those.
For sure. And it's worth mentioning too that public cloud vendors understanding the hesitancy of a lot of shops, a lot of organizations to move to the cloud means that they have spent a great deal of effort making it easier than ever to move some or all of your workloads up into the public cloud. I mean, they understand that if it's not an easy on ramp, it's going to make companies much less likely to go there. So it's not as big a lift, certainly, as it was 5 or 10 years ago, or even a year ago. I mean, these advances are happening all the time, it seems to me. So, Dan Sullivan, thank you so much for coming on and talking to us about these issues today. It's always great to have your wisdom and insights at the beginning of an event like this. So, thank you so much.
Well, thanks, Keith. Hope to talk to you again soon.
Totally agree. Always love to start an EcoCast out with you, Dan. And Keith, thank you so much for leading us through that really interesting presentation or discussion. And I think, for a lot of us, there's a lot of insightful and brain sparking moments throughout that conversation. And the good news is that we're just getting started on this conversation today. There is so much more to dig into, so much more to explore. And we've got some incredible speakers in the wings to help us navigate this conversation. Before I bring out our first expert speaker of the day, I do want to remind you all that we've got this awesome poll. Now, we're going to ask you a couple of different poll questions throughout the day today. So think of this as like your test run. We're checking to see if you're alive and alert and with us today. So what we really want to know is, what's your time frame? What is the time frame that you have in mind for updating your existing solutions, or maybe you're adding new and different solutions? Now, obviously, today we're talking about protection and cloud native. So if you're looking to sort of implement any of the things that you're learning about today, is there an urgent need in your organization? Do you need to make changes right away? Maybe you're coming in hot into 2024 and knocking down walls and making things happen. And if that's the case, let us know. If you're thinking a little bit longer term, maybe you've already got everything kind of set up for the next year and you're already thinking about 2025. Oh gosh, oh my. I hope you guys aren't already in 2025. I'm barely digesting to 2024. But if you're thinking really far ahead, we want to know that too. And again, there's no wrong answers here. This just helps us make sure that we're hitting you with the right information, the right conversations at the right time. All right, so I'm giving you one last chance to answer. It looks like we're pretty evenly split, although quite a few of you either in the short term or the not sure. And I love that because that means we're taking fast action or we have no idea. And that is a great place to start any conversation. Lots of room for growth and exploration here. And that brings us to our very first speaker of the day. It is my absolute pleasure to introduce you to our first speaker, our first session, our first discussion of the very first EcoCast of 2024. And we are definitely starting things out on a great note here today because we've got the Clumio crew. So please help me welcome Ari Paul, Director of Product Marketing at Clumio. Ari, thank you so much for being here with us today to kick off this EcoCast. Now, I know you've got a lot of great stuff planned for the audience today, and we want to make sure we've got some time for questions at the end. So I'm going to hand things on over to you. Ari, take it away.
Thank you. It's great to be here, and thanks everyone for joining. For those of you who are hearing about Clumio for the first time, Clumio is the leader in cloud-native backup and recovery. So this is a great forum for us to connect. If you're interested in backup and recovery for cloud-native applications, we're absolutely the right folks to talk to, so excited to be here. Now, before we begin talking about backups for cloud-native applications, I would love to spend a minute delving into what a cloud-native application really looks like, what the anatomy of a cloud-native application is, right? So let's take AWS as the cloud provider and explore what CNA kind of looks like. Now, as we all know, the first piece of any application is compute infrastructure, right? So regardless of whether your app is running on VMs or containers or serverless functions, you need a compute platform. So on AWS, it's most often EC2 or EKS or Lambda for serverless. Now, one of the key questions that we get from a lot of our customers about cloud-native backup is, do I need to back up cloud-native compute platforms such as these? Well, here's the thing. Compute platforms themselves don't store any data, right? So the idea is to identify where these compute services are actually persisting data. And most often in AWS, this data, this persistent data, is residing in either EBS volumes or S3 buckets, and then there's like file services such as EFS, FSX, and so on, right? So once you have identified as the owner of your cloud-native application where your data persists, you can then proceed to back it up if you deem that data to be critical. So on the slide now, we have compute and then its associated persistent storage. But as we all know, most applications require some sort of schema in between the compute and storage layers, for which you need databases. Right? Because databases also persist data, they also need to get backed up. And very often customers use techniques like snapshots, transaction logs, or time streams. Right? I've used RDS and DynamoDB here as examples, but of course you can have third-party databases like MongoDB, like Redis. You can also have self-hosted databases like SQL Server on EC2, MySQL on EC2, Oracle on EC2, and so on. Right? And then you have data warehouses as well, like Redshift. Right? So all of these, or at least a majority of these, persist data, and you need to back them up. Okay, so now we've accounted for the compute layer and kind of the persistence layer. The next obvious place to go in a cloud-native application is the network layer, comprising of VPCs, elastic load balancers, DNS, CDNs, VPNs, what have you, right? These don't require backups per se, but in some cases, you do want to store their configurations in S3, as config files, and then back that up. And this is particularly important and in fact encouraged in those regulatory compliance use cases, where you have long-term retention of data, of logs and configs and so on. And of course, there are many, many more services that may interact with your cloud-native application, such as analytics, machine learning, monitoring, identity management, all of that, right? Once again, there's generally no concept of backing up those services as is, although it's always a good practice to back up their logs and config files, in a low-cost environment such as S3. And then if it's super critical, you back up that S3 environment itself. So in short, the only thing that you really, as an application owner, or at least the storage or infra owner for the application, that you need to worry about backing up is the persistent layer consisting of core storage and data services. All right, great. So now we have an idea of what a cloud native app actually looks like. So let's get into what data those cloud native apps may contain that you would actually want to back up. Now we know that cloud native applications in particular generate a lot of data, right? And 80% of that probably doesn't need to get backed up. So where is that remaining 20%, right? So the first the first category that we hear from our customers is user or customer generated data, right? This generally includes anything that's created by an application's customers or used by an application's customers. This could be like document uploads, media such as images and videos, customer profiles, and so on. Now, these can reside in different forms across your persistent storage. They can reside in your databases as user records. They can reside in S3 buckets as PDFs. In general, because it's not data that you own as the application provider, it's good to maintain a backup copy because permanent deletion of that data can directly lead to loss of customer service, the customer experience, and a loss of revenue. Okay, so that's category one. The second is data that is subject to regulatory compliance. Now, depending on the industry that you operate in, this could range from health records, financial transactions, employee information, food safety records, environmental impact reports, like the list goes on and on. For every industry, there's a set of regulations, and for each of those regulations, there are some data retention requirements, right? Now, the reason you'd want to back it up is obvious, like non-compliance can result in steep fines from your respective regulatory agency and can also lead to a lot of bad press that eventually leads to customer churn. All right, so the third category is proprietary information. Now, non-public information is often a huge target for ransomware and malicious actors who might try to, encrypt or wipe out your data. So whether it's intellectual property, company secrets, employee credentials, or material non-public information such as, financial forecasts or business projections, it's always good to retain a properly secured encrypted backup copy. And then finally, companies today often retain troves of information for analytics and machine learning in vast data lakes or data warehouses. Business intelligence and forecasting relies on historical financial data that machine learning models are often trained on. Developers often test new versions of their applications or services on historical application data. So it's always a good idea to back all of this up to keep your services to your internal employees up and running in case of an adverse incident. All right. So all in all, these are kind of the four broad categories that we have seen that customers that build cloud native applications require data backups for. Okay, excellent. So now we've learned, what a cloud native app looks like, where it stores data, and what kind of data you would want to back up. So it's obvious that, it's a lot of data to handle, and ideally you would want something to keep all of these different pieces of your backup, like the retention policies, the compliance policies, the source data, things like immutability, air gap, encryption. All of this stuff, you'd ideally want a platform that keeps all of this automated and keeps it secure by default. To that end, let me introduce you to Clumio as a platform and what we promise our customers. Now, I'll be the first to tell you that what we do isn't rocket science. In fact, we do just 3 to 4 things, but we do them the best in the world. So with Clumio, number one is you can pretty much set and forget your cloud backups without ever having to manage servers, snapshots, replicas, archives, and all this stuff that we just discussed in the previous slide. All of your backups on Clumio are logically air-gapped and immutable by default. So there's no way that a malicious actor can ever get to your backups, much less delete them or mess with them. Clumio generally clocks 10 times the speed of data recovery against any other product that customers may be using for cloud-native applications in terms of backup and recovery. And customers that switch from other backup solutions to Clumio see at least a 30% savings on an annual basis. So these are kind of the four things that we promise to our customers when it comes to cloud-native backup and recovery. So, why do customers choose to do backups for their cloud-native applications anyway, right? Like those 4 data sets that we identified, what are kind of the key use cases for which a backup and recovery product might come into the fore? So there's basically 4 of them. Number 1 is near-term operational recovery from things like accidental deletions or operational disruptions. Someone's fat-fingered a production database and you need to recover that. A cloud-native backup and recovery solution such as Clumio can help you do that. The second is recovery from malicious attacks, internal or external, such as ransomware, wipeouts, and so on. The third, we discussed this earlier, is long-term data retention at a low cost for compliance purposes. And number 4 is overall optimization and consolidation of backups, right? Now, remember on one of the previous slides, we said that, okay, here are the things that needs to get backed up in a cloud-native app, basically anything that persists data. Well, Clumio can help you automate the backups of all of those data services, right? This includes critical or regulated information in your databases, whether it's a managed database like RDS or a self-managed database that's running on EC2, like SQL Server on EC2 or Oracle on EC2 or SAP HANA on EC2. This also includes data lakes and unstructured data, such as media, config files, logs, user retained data on that customers typically store in S3 buckets. So we help you protect that as well. And then, of course, there's a category where applications are running on EC2, and those use EBS and file services. So we help customers protect that as well, as in addition to the basics of organizational data protection that resides in things like M365. So all this is to say that regardless of what your use case is, which I have pointed out on the right, or what your data source is or data service is, which I have pointed out on the left, Clumio can be your friend in backing up any of this. And like I said, we provide distinct advantages in the cloud because we're basically a born in the cloud company. We do not support on-premises infrastructure. We are pure play a cloud product. So let's now explore fundamentally what a cloud native backup solution looks like how we make all of those outcomes possible. So look, as I've stated before, a cloud native backup solution must back up all persistent data stores, right? Not just 1 or 2. Why? Because apps in the cloud are not built on a single service. They're built generally comprising of at least 4 to 5 different data services. So to that end, Clumio has among the widest coverage for data sources. I've taken AWS here as an example, ensuring application-level resilience across workloads. Now, one of the most elegant things about Clumio is the simplicity and ease of use, ease of setup, particularly. Backup and recovery, there are a lot of legacy vendors in this space, especially if you're using on-prem products. Now, backup and recovery for on-prem looks somewhat like this. You have to, first of all, order hardware. You have to, work with licensing. You have to do a lot of server configuration. You have to do, take half a day out for deployment, and then many more such hurdles before you even perform your first backup, right? On Clumio, this entire process literally takes less than 10 minutes. Just create an account from Clumio.com or the AWS Marketplace, connect your AWS account to Clumio using Terraform or CloudFormation, and you're basically good to go. All Clumio needs in your account is an appropriate service level IAM role. So we do not have to deploy any servers. We don't deploy any third-party agents. We bring no security vulnerabilities. Everything, all of the operations that happen outside your account. And that makes Clumio super lightweight to set up. Now, once you set up Clumio, Clumio at the backend will set up a dedicated, logically air-gapped, and default immutable account that's always encrypted that will be dedicated to a particular customer. So if you're a Clumio customer, you have a dedicated backend account just to yourself. The data that resides in this account will never touch the public internet, will never be shared to other customer arenas, and will never be read or identified by us. Now, unlike traditional backup recovery operations, Clumio doesn't do just a bulk copy from one place to another. In fact, we interface with individual services at an API level. So this includes like using S3 events for S3, using EBS Direct API for block storage, using time streams for DynamoDB, and so on. And what this enables is very high fidelity, continuous backup and point-in-time recovery for the data services that power your cloud-native application. And then our secret sauce to all of our RPO, RTO performance, and low cost is what we call the Clumio serverless workflow engine. Now, Clumio as a data platform is built on a built on a serverless workflow platform that provides unparalleled dynamic scalability. Right? Everything that we do, like differential capture, dedupe, optimization, indexing, all of this is done based via Lambda functions. We do not require like any heavy file systems. We do not require like setting up multiple EC2 instances or clusters. Everything that we do is done at a functions level, and that gives us like 10x performance and also a lot lower cost than your traditional backup vendor. And we pass on these cost savings to our customers. And then all data on Clumio is stored on an immutable scale-out storage platform. And like I said, we don't require any heavy file systems to optimize or index data. And then finally, Clumio supports multimodal recoveries. So if you need to prove compliance during an audit, you can simply SQL query your backup. If you need an application to access your backups during an outage, you can do that too using Clumio Instant Access. If you want to restore your data into a second region, you can use our full scale-out restore capabilities as well, within region, out of account, what have you. So, all of these come together to make Clumio like the most differentiated and purpose-built, value-driven platform for cloud data backup. And once again, I've taken AWS here as an example because that's where we really shine. In fact, we're so confident in our architecture that we're ready for any customer to test us anytime against any backup platform, including AWS's own native tools. Now, I understand that this is, a fairly technical deep dive. So I'm just going to summarize here very quickly as to what this architectural benefit means to our customers, right? So, a lot of customers tend to port their on-prem VM-focused backup solution to the cloud, which is almost always a not so good idea, right? You see, when you want to back up a cloud-native application, you want it to be completely hands-off, right? You want your backup provider to automate backups, store it, secure it, and then restore it quickly when you want to. The problem with porting over your on-prem vendor to the cloud is that they almost always rely on you storing your own backups while they orchestrate it for you. So you have to pay for the storage of your backups, and the responsibility to secure it also lies with you. In addition, you have to pay them a license fee for this orchestration. And the worst part is like these vendors generally run very heavy file systems to optimize their backups, and those are run in your account. So in addition to the bill that you're paying them and your storage bill, you also have to pay a heavy compute bill as well. Here's how it should work, right? Your backups should be your backup vendor's responsibility, period. Their storage, their security, their orchestration, customer support, everything should be one single line item on your bill. And you should not be expected to run anything in your own account when it comes to backup and recovery. All of the orchestration and optimization and indexing should run outside of your account. Now, the reason Clumio is able to support this while legacy vendors are not is, again, comes down to the way that we've been architected. All right. So, it's not just we support customers from a wide variety of enterprise readiness and cloud maturity, but you'll see that it's the cloud leaders that have actually switched over to Clumio and see the biggest benefits, like Atlassian, LexisNexis. And these are obviously a small sample set of public references that we have, but across media and entertainment, software, industrial and manufacturing, legal and risk, e-commerce, like we have a breathtaking set of customers that have switched to us and seen immense results. And would love to have you as the next logo on the slide. So if you have an application that's that's recently migrated to the cloud or has been built on the cloud, Clumio will probably be a great fit for you. Customers love our simple, intuitive UI. In fact, simplicity is the number one reason why customers choose Clumio. So that's pretty much all I had. Thank you again. I hope you have a great rest of the day, rest of the year, and I'm happy to hang around and take a few questions.
Well, perfect, Ari, because we've got lots of questions for you. Thank you so much for that awesome presentation. So much good information. And holy wow, all of you came back from break just ready to jump in because the questions are pouring in. We have so many to get to, and I'm going to start asking Ari some questions in just a second as they continue to pour in. Wow, you guys are on it. Everyone had their coffee today. But before we get into our Q&A session, I just want to point out that we do have this, it's a poll, but think of it as like a wish list. What we want to know is what is the additional information that would be helpful for you about the Clumio solution. So there's data sheets and white papers and case studies, so many ways that you can follow up on the conversation that we're having today with Ari. And there's lots more to learn, right? So you're going to, take as many notes and take in as much as you can, but there's just only so much you're going to retain after we wrap our EcoCast today. So this wish list here is a great way to make sure that you can remind yourself of all of these cool things you're learning about after we wrap and get those follow-ups that you want. So you should see that up on the screen right now. I'll remind you, if you're not seeing that, that poll, that wish list up on the screen, do a quick browser refresh and then it'll pop right up, I promise you. All right, so while you're doing that, Ari and I are getting into some questions here. Ari, are you ready?
Yep, I'm here.
Awesome. All right. Well, the questions are pouring in, but I want to start because we saw a few things kind of coming in around budget. And I think that's top of mind for a lot of folks, especially, and we saw a few people mention this, coming into the new year. You mentioned cost savings and keeping costs low. Can you talk to us a little bit more about how Clumio is going to save money and how you kind of fit into that overall concern?
Yeah, there are essentially three vectors by which we help customers save money. And we recently published a blog on this. We collectively across our customer base saved them $10 million in cloud costs in 2023. If you go to just clumio.com/blog, you'll be able to find that. Now, the three vectors by which we save customers money is, number one, we help them classify their data before they back it up. So we don't enforce customers to back up everything en masse. So for example, if you have an S3 bucket with, say, 100 prefixes with 1 billion objects, ordinarily with, say, native tools that you may be using like replication, you'd have to back up the entire thing. With Clumio, you can identify only those prefixes or objects that are super critical to you and back up only those. So thereby you reduce a bunch of costs on your backup. So that's the first vector. The second vector is that we identify using like our tool chain, snapshots, replicas, archives that you may not have used or we don't foresee you using for a long time. So either we tier them into super low cost storage, or we send you a message saying, hey, are you sure this snapshot is still relevant? If not, you can expunge it or you can delete it. So by identifying these, orphan snapshots and unused replicas or backups, we send customers proactively like a message that, hey, should you want to delete this, you can save, say, X terabytes of data. So that's another vector by which we save customers money. And the third vector is that we use a lot of storage optimizations at our end. So when you store data on the Clumio platform, we use things like tarballing, small file optimization, deduplication, compression. So ordinarily, 1 terabyte of data on your side, depending on the workload, can be as small as 200 to 300 gigabytes on our side. So we essentially see a compression ratio of like 3 to 1 or 4 to 1. So across these three vectors, we save an average customer about 30% of their like secondary storage bill, but it can go as high as like 70, 80%.
Wow. All right. So yeah, not small numbers we're talking here. That's a pretty big impact. Another thing that certainly is top of mind for everyone right now is AI and automations. And we did get a few questions coming in about how Clumio is utilizing different variations of AI. Wondering if you can dig into that a little bit further for us as well.
Yeah, if you just go to clumio.com, the first thing that you'll see is that we call ourselves an autonomous platform. So we do leverage some components of machine learning on our platform. Now, we don't want to say that, we're kind of the chat GPT for backup. And you'll see a lot of like gimmicks from the industry saying that, oh, we've created a chat interface and whatnot. And these things are generally not super helpful. Where autonomy is important is like real meaningful things like policy application, data classification, identifying cost hotspots. So pattern matching, time series forecasting, like all of these things. So at the back end, yes, we have a lot of autonomy built in, but we don't do like gimmicky stuff like, like a chat bot for our platform and whatnot.
Okay. All right. Well, we are getting pretty close to the end of time here, so we're going to have to wrap things up pretty quickly, but I'm going to try to sneak in a few more questions. One that came in a few times and in a few different variations that I think is kind of interesting is, can you talk to us about how you would differentiate backup and DR? Do you see them as synonymous, or if not, what do you think makes those two concepts different?
Yeah, that is actually a great question. I think, so DR always enforces that you keep a secondary environment or a secondary replica of your environment like always active and alive. And then, should something happen to your primary environment, you kind of fail over to the secondary environment. Backup is very different. Backup operates at a data level. So you take a copy of your data, you hyper optimize it, and you store it at a certain point. And should something happen to your primary environment, you need about between 30 minutes to like an hour and a half to essentially restore that data, and then the infrastructure, your VPCs and all of that, you kind of spin up in a new instance. So backup and DR like both add resilience, but they serve very different purposes. DR, I would say, is for mission critical applications that cannot withstand more than a minute, 5 minutes of downtime, whereas backups are more for these hot cold environments or pilot light applications, which can withstand maybe about 30 minutes to kind of an hour and a half of downtime. That's how I would differentiate. The other important thing is backup can provide point in time recovery, whereas DR cannot. Like backup, you can go back to say Wednesday at 7 p.m., but DR will only take you back to like the last good state of your primary infrastructure.
That is a really good, key distinction there. And really important to be, I think sometimes we take these terms that we hear on the daily as just sort of ubiquitous in our life without really digging into the differentiation. And there are some subtle differences that can be really impactful. So I appreciate you helping us unpack that a little bit. I am going to sneak in one last little question because we got a few people wanting to make sure that Clumio is going to work for Azure infrastructure as well.
Yeah, that's a great question. Today, we support, from Microsoft services, we support M365, but we are launching we're launching support for Azure very soon. So there's a great time to reach out to us. We'll get, your product requests in. We'll build them into our product roadmap, our feature sets. So yeah, keep your eyes peeled. We're launching something on Azure very soon.
Amazing. I love when that's the answer. Stay tuned. More coming at you. Ari, I wish we could keep you around with us a bit longer today because, as you can see, the questions are pouring in. We're getting a lot of high fives and some great feedback to your presentation. So clearly the audience is loving this conversation. We are going to have to leave it there. But you know what, Ari, I hope we'll get to see you lots more in 2024. Thanks for being here to kick us off this year.
Thank you. Have a good one.
Oh,
Bye.
Ari, wait, yes. Before you go, I have one more question for you. I'm sorry. See, this shows how out of practice we are. Ari, before you leave us, if someone wants to get started with Clumio, they want to jump in, what do? What's the first step?
Yeah, you can just go to clumio.com and you'll see a button for you to try it for yourself. It'll just take you to the AWS Marketplace and you can get started. No intervention required from anybody. Just get started backing up your data from clumio.com.
Amazing. All right. Well, thanks for, I Minnesota goodbye you there. I said goodbye and then I asked you for one more thing. So I'm not going to do it again. I'm going to let you go. But Ari, thank you so much for being here. It's been a ton of fun chatting with you.
Thanks, Jess. Take care.
All right. So all of you out there asking some great questions. I know we didn't get to all of them. I see you, Jacob. I see you. We've got lots of great questions coming in. Flora, just everyone throwing the questions out. And I love seeing that. Gold stars for everyone. I know that we didn't get to all of them. We do have to keep the sessions moving today because we've still got another awesome speaker in the wings we do need to get to. But I do want to let you all know that we're going to get back to as many questions as we can on live chat today. So the Clumio team will answer as many questions as they can. Any questions that don't get answered over live chat, we will respond over email. So keep those questions coming because you'll get some answers back. So, everyone out there that we didn't get to in the live Q&A session, don't worry, we are still going to get some answers back to you. All right. And to everyone sending in the high fives and thumbs up to Ari, I agree. It is an awesome, awesome session, awesome conversation, and then just a great way to kick off this EcoCast. And the fun is not over yet. We've got another session in the wings. But before we get there, you all know the drill. It's time for a prize giveaway. Now, I'm going to remind you, now I'm Minnesota goodbying you guys. Before I move on to the prizes, I do want to let you all know that there is that handouts tab. So a reminder to be clicking on the handouts as we go throughout our session today. There are some great takeaways. You know, we were talking about this with that poll, with that wish list, that you think you're going to remember everything, right? You know, right in the moment, it all feels so front and center in your brain. But I guarantee you, someone's going to call you or email you right after we wrap up the EcoCast, and about 10 to 40% of what you just heard is going to flit right out of your brain. So these handouts, these, you know, wish lists that are up on your screen right now, this is a great way to make sure that you get those reminders that you need and you have ways to follow up on this conversation. So right now, if you click into the handouts tab, you can grab a white paper from the Enterprise Strategy Group on Clumio, cost optimized backup and recovery for data in AWS. Clumio and AWS better together. I love that little subtitle. So click on that handout, grab that white paper. This is going to be a great follow-up to the conversation we just had with Ari. All right, now I said prizes. Let's do prizes. I promise they're coming. We are going to give away a $300 Amazon gift card to someone who is here live and present at the EcoCast. And our first lucky winner of 2024 on an EcoCast is Joshua Clark from Missouri. Joshua Clark of Missouri, you have won a $300 Amazon gift card. Now we will follow up with you after we wrap, so stay tuned for that. Plus, there are 2 more chances to win a gift card, and we have that $50 best question gift card from each session. So keep those questions coming in, my friends. All right, well, that is it. It is time to get into our next session. Now, my friends, this EcoCast today is on the short side, but also on the sweet side, because it definitely is packing a punch. We've got tons of exciting information coming your way, so many cool takeaways. And here we are at our very last presentation of the day. But as you can see, we are wrapping it up with a bang, because we have here with us today a dynamic duo from Rubrik. We are going to be chatting with Jerry Reinbeck, VP Rubrik X Text Go-to-Market, and Salvatore Bucaliero, who wins Coolest Name of the Year so far, Senior SaaS and Security Engineer EMEA, both from Rubrik. Now, Jerry and Salvatore, thank you so much for being here with us at the EcoCast as our grand finale today. Now, Jerry, I think you're going to start us out with a little bit more of the story around Rubrik and M365. And then Salvatore, I know you have an awesome demo lined up for us, so lots of great things in store. Let's get things rolling. Take it away, Jerry.
Hello, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Jerry Reinbeck from Rubrik. Within Rubrik, I'm responsible for our SaaS and security products in EMEA. And I would like to talk to you today about one of the fastest growing applications in the world right now, Microsoft 365. So what we've seen, and especially because of the pandemic, is an extremely accelerated usage, and not just in sheer numbers, but most of all in criticality. I think M365 has extremely rapidly evolved from an email online utility to a Tier 1 business application. Imagine a situation today, if you have already migrated to M365, imagine a situation today where all of your email, your collaboration, your Teams, your OneDrive, your SharePoint sites, everything is gone. What happens to your business when that moment comes? How do you interact with your customers? What is your failback scenario? I mean, could you even communicate with press? Things like that. So 365 has been an enormous, increasingly important application in our data center landscape, in our cloud landscape. And I want to talk to you about protecting that data that is in there. Because Microsoft will protect Microsoft will give you the services you are needed to run your 365 environment, but the data that is in there is your data. And that's not just my statement, that's actually the contract that you've also signed with Microsoft. They will provide all the services needed to keep those services running, but in case something happens to your data, that is your responsibility, and that is why Microsoft strongly recommends you to back up the data that is in there on a regular basis. So what is it that Rubrik has to offer for customers using 365? Of course, Microsoft already has a lot of tools inside of 365 that you can use for accidental deletions, for litigation situations, and of course the compliancy, the threat analysis, all of those things Microsoft can do for you. But what Rubrik can do on top of that is really give you a zero trust backup environment for that 365 data. We will make sure that we can protect and recover it, even if you're talking about tens of thousands of users. Of course, all of that is being done in through Rubrik form. As you, if you're already a Rubrik user, you know that everything in our system is run by SLAs. So you tell us basically how many backups you want per day, how many copies you want to have stored, for how many years you want to store them, and the system will figure out how to do those backups. That is for data center solutions, but that's also for hybrid cloud solutions, and now also for 365 SaaS applications. So what is the real threat that we're facing? Of course, Microsoft will do everything in their power to keep you safe. Unfortunately, they have no control over what happens to your users and your passwords, and sometimes perimeters are breached. If that is the case, what we see more and more is that these attackers will try and get your global admin passwords as soon as possible. Because once they have that, and it can take weeks of digging through your log files, of social engineering, spear phishing, you name it, but they will get to a point where they have that administrator password. And once that is there, all transactional systems are locked. You will get the note saying, we now have your data locked, and you have decisions to make. Are you going to pay them, or are you going to try and come back from this scenario? So, of course, your data will be exfiltrated, you'll get a ransom note, and then basically Microsoft gives you some tooling to, you have retention policies, recycle bins, version control, legal holds, preservation lock. So you basically have those options within your environment, which is fine if you're talking about 10, 20, 30 mailboxes. The problem is, at enterprise scale, these tools were never built for disaster recovery. There's no way to get 10,000 mailboxes or terabytes of OneDrive data back through these policies or back through these tools. So you either use the native compliancy tools, or you're doing the compliancy encryption, preservation tools, but none of them will give you the ability to do a mass recovery. So if that is what your strategy is based on, it will get you out of a lot of situations, but mass protection and recovery is not one of them. And that is a scenario if you're attacked by ransomware, although sometimes you also have rogue IT administrators or just major project blunders. These things happen, and if you have to recover 10,000 mailboxes and OneDrive folders, that's the moment when you realize that all of those tooling that you've been using for single file recovery or single mailbox recovery are not going to help you right now. So all of these tools by itself are fantastic. They have their own use. But in case of a cyber attack, what you see is actually, if they have the global admin account, they're actually going to use these against you, because retention is great, but an admin can overrule it and set it back. So your recycle bin no longer works. The legal hold is fantastic if you want to lock 1, 2, 3 mailboxes, but there's no way you can lock your entire environment and utilize that tool. Same with retention, the same with version control. Version control is fantastic if you delete a file and you want to get a previous version, if you modify a file and you want to get a previous version back. But if you delete the entire environment, then also version control is gone, right? This is why you need a third-party application like Rubrik to protect this environment, this business-critical application. So some core design principles. So Microsoft is an investor in Rubrik, and our combined efforts to build the best solution in the market to protect that 365 data has some key principles. So our approach really has been, this is a zero trust design, right? So the core principle is nobody is to be trusted, including our employees, your employees. So everything has been completely air-gapped, encrypted, and least access. So role-based access control, lowest permissions possible, et cetera, et cetera. Our employees cannot access that data, and that data is also not stored in your primary Microsoft environment. It's actually stored in ours. So even if they have full global access control, full global admin control in your environment, they will not be able to reach the backup data. Of course, this is an enterprise solution, so we want to make sure that we use all of the tools that Microsoft gives us, all of the APIs and the Kubernetes services that run below, to scale that up automatically and use the power of the cloud, the performance of the cloud, to really give you, minimal downtime, maximum performance. Of course, we've built this solution from the ground up, but also to be completely compatible and exactly the same as we are already protecting data centers today. So if you're using Rubrik for your VMware environment or your native cloud solutions or your SQL servers, the way you're protecting the environment based on SLAs, based on business policies, it works exactly the same. It's the same interface, the same workflow, the same full API automation possibilities that you have in our core product, you also have in our 365 product. So how does it work? You have, on the bottom of the screen, this is your 365 environment. It's compromised, they have your passwords, and now they're trying to reach that data. The beauty is, of course, we're using multi-factor authentication. We're using OAuth authentication between the two systems. So basically, you give us a one-time password to get the information that we needed. After that, these user accounts are no longer used. Everything is encrypted, both at flight and at rest. But most of all, it's completely air-gapped. It has separated from your environment. There's no matching user IDs and passwords, and it's completely safe. Once that connection has been established, you assign the SLA. You tell us, this is how many times a day I want my mailboxes protected. This is how many times a day I want my SharePoint environment protected. This is how many days, weeks, months, or years you have to store this. Rubrik, go figure it out. Once that is done, we will scale up our backend. So the amount of machines, the amount of storage, the amount of Kubernetes services that we are using in the back is dynamically allocated based on the metrics of your environment. So we know how many users, how many terabytes, petabytes we need to protect or recover, and based on that, we'll scale the backend as needed. And of course, all in one simple interface. A SaaS application hosted by Rubrik with all of your data ready to be restored. Last but not least, Microsoft recognizes the importance of these kind of solutions, and we're extremely proud to say that Microsoft even took a significant stake in our company because they believe that this is the way forward. So our engineers are working together to bring you the best solution in the market possible today. So thank you, ladies and gentlemen. I've tried to show you the why and the what of M365 protection. In the next 15 minutes, I'm actually going to show you the how. So stick around for a live demonstration, and see you there.
Thank you, Jerry. I will take it from here. Hi, everyone. My name is Salvatore Bucoliero. I'm based in Copenhagen, Denmark, and I'm the Senior Microsoft 365 Specialist Engineer for EMEA. I've been here since 2017, so almost 5 years now. It's really going fast. It has been really fun and interesting to be part of this journey of innovation here with Rubrik. In this little video, I will show you a short demo of how we protect a Microsoft 365 workload. We have a very good partnership with Microsoft, who recently decided to invest with Rubrik. And we are, of course, super excited and proud to be selected as a Microsoft 365 partner. But let's jump into the demo. Let me share my screen. So as you can see here on the screen, this is Rubrik Polaris. Rubrik Polaris is our central management and administration, reporting and auditing tool for all the workloads you want to protect. So this includes data center workloads, remote offices, cloud workloads, and SaaS. This is also the place you would be alerted and be investigating if you had a ransomware attack. This is also where you could investigate if you have any personal sensitive data in your data sets. This is where you can set up, test, and do orchestrated disaster recoveries between sites, and much more, including the new capabilities we'll be bringing to the marketplace. So one central management to rule them all. In this picture here, you can see we have an overview of tasks. We have a compliancy overview, protection overview, and for each of these numbers, you can click and drill in and get more information. We have a map, an interactive map where we can see where our data centers are located. So I'll be going into the inventory. This is the view of all the things we can protect here at Rubrik. As you can see, it's data center, it's cloud, it's all the workload types. This is Microsoft 365, and we get an overview here. We have one subscription, we have 100% compliancy rate, 690 protected objects. And let's go in and see this. This is the dashboard of Microsoft 365. It gives you a good amount of information in one quick go. So you can see how much storage we are consuming. We can see the compliancy for all the objects. And here we can drill into compliancy for a specific object type, such as teams. And we can see we have 4 teams and they are all compliant. We have a graph of daily errors and warnings, and we can see a success rates. And down here, we have an overview of the mailboxes, the OneDrives, the SharePoints, and the Teams. And we are getting told how many we are being protected, and we get an SLA compliancy rate. This is just one Microsoft 365 subscription I have in this demo. If you want to add more subscriptions, you can just click Add Subscription, and this will guide you into a 7-step process where you are connecting to your Microsoft 365 subscription, authorizing access, setting it up, and then you are good to go. It's really fast and efficient. And here at Rubrik, we believe in simplicity and we believe in efficiency. So we are utilizing Microsoft Kubernetes to spin up compute resources as needed. And by doing this, we are very elegantly and automatically able to scale from very small workloads to very large workloads. Also, we have a Microsoft 365 hosted option where we are storing your Microsoft 365 data in an Azure hot blob store that ensures that you have no access to the actual backup data, and that ensures that a rogue admin or ransomware attack would not be able to destroy both your production data and your backup data. So separation of duties is super important. This interface obviously also supports single sign-on, multi-factor authentication. We have role-based access. Everything is encrypted and using certificates. So security is really in the center of it all as well here. Let's look into Exchange Mailbox and see what users we have here. You can see this is the users tab for Exchange Mailbox. We could also select OneDrive. And we have here the SLA domains that we are using to protect these users. I could select all of the users in one go and click Manage Protection. And here I can select one of the SLAs that I have already, or I can create my own. So I'll do that, or at least the first few steps of it. So I'll be typing a name here that gives this SLA a name. And here I can select what type of workloads I want to be protecting with this SLA. So you can see we support multiple workload types in this GUI. Microsoft 365 is what I want. I'll click next. And now I need to decide how often I want to protect the workload and how long retention I want for these settings. So maybe I want to protect everything every 4 hours, and I will retain this frequency just for 1 day. So for the past 24 hours, I have 6 backups to choose from. I may want a regular daily backup, and I'll keep that for 1 month. I'll do a monthly backup, and by the way, I want that the first day of the month, and I want to keep this for 3 months. And then finally, I want a yearly backup, which is from December, and I want to keep this for, let's say, 5 years. Very simple and easy and intuitive way of defining exactly how I want to be protecting my workloads. I'll click next. And this is an overview of the selection choices I've done. I won't create this SLA now. I just wanted to show you how we do create these SLAs. So instead of assigning SLAs by the user, which can be somewhat cumbersome, depending on how many users you have, we also understand an Azure AD group setup. So here are some of the Azure AD groups we have imported into Polaris, and I can then assign SLAs depending on which group a person is part of. And you can see if I add group, it will connect to Azure AD, and here I can select which group I want to be administrating. So this could be SQL admins. Click add, and now I have SQL admins, and I can then assign an SLA to users belonging to that group. Really nice and easy. Going back to the users, I have a status of active users and relic users. So when users are leaving the company, we most likely still have to retain the data for the remainder of the retention period. And by selecting active or relic, we can know if we're working with active or relic users. Up here, I have a very fast search capability. I can find a user. You could see we have 2 Salvatores here at Rubric. And I'll just select myself. And this is the overview of the protection of my mailbox. I'm part of the SLA called Gold. And you can see it's highlighted. I could click in and see how that actually is set up. This is the calendar view, so we can see what backups we have for each day for the past couple of days. And I'll go into this today. I have 2 backups. I can do a recovery from each of those, or I could search here for an email from any of those 2 backups. Maybe let's search for Microsoft. Let's see if we find something. And there are all my emails that contains the subject Microsoft. From here, I can select those emails I want, select recover, and restore them back to myself or to another user. I'll just go ahead and recover those. And as you can see, this is now in motion. This is the same simple principle I use for OneDrive. Again, I have my SLA. I can see now how much data I'm consuming in OneDrive. I have the snapshots of the different dates. Let's say if I go back to December, what do I have from that? December 1st. There was a scheduled backup. I want to recover from that one. I can select the entire OneDrive, or I can click into the actual folder structure, go into documentation, select a set of documents, click next, and recover them back to me or to another user. Of course, this is depending on the rights I have. I also have Teams, and for Teams, they are in different channels or groups, if you will. I can click into those. Again, I have the calendar view. I can click the calendar. I can search here by file names. I can also add more fields to my search, from and to, and which channel it's part of. And then, of course, I can go into the folder structure and recover those OneDrive documents directly. Very easy. Here are the various channels. I actually created my own. Click into that, and I have a document there I could recover as well. It's very much the same for SharePoint sites. I have the sites here. I can click into the site. I can search for documents. I can select an entire site. So really easy and simple and intuitive. The last thing I wanted to show you is the events and reporting. Of course, all events such as backup successes and failures and indexing and whatnot is being logged here, and you can of course send this to an external syslog server, or you can send it to Seam or XOR and other types of applications. And we also have an audit log, so you can see that I started a restore from my own mailbox, and this audit log will also be showing if a user is doing a search on a subject type in other people's emails. It's of course very crucial to keep an audit log on what people are doing with this tool. Going back to the inventory, this is again, this is the rubric Polaris, where we can manage all your workloads. And I hope you enjoyed this little demo of how we protect a Microsoft 365 workload. So thank you for your time, and have a great day. Thank you.
Well, thank you, Jerry and Salvatore. What a great presentation. You know, I saw a couple of feedback coming in from the audience out there, you know, high-fiving that kind of structure and flow. I really like, we got a little bit of the how and the why, and then we got to see it sort of put into action and actually dig into the what that Rubrik offers. And I think that's a really cool kind of walkthrough. Plus, anytime we get into a demo, right, you know, you can hear about a solution so many times, you can hear about a platform, but until you actually get to open that platform up and really see it in action, it's hard to kind of conceptualize. So I'm really glad that we got to take a little bit of time to dig into that in a demo today. I hope that you all enjoyed that as much as I did. As I said, I see lots of those high fives coming in, and I love that. I do want to remind you all that we have that wish list up on the screen right now. And what we're wondering about is, what is the additional information that would be helpful for you about the Rubrik solution? So we are going to have to wrap things up here. We went a little long in our demo, so we're going to leave it there for our live Q&A. But there's lots of chances to get answers over live chat. Although, I mean, the Rubrik team is pretty quick, but we've got maybe 2 minutes left in our EcoCast. So my guess is you're going to get those responses back over email. So keep those questions coming in. Now, but the other way to make sure that you're getting the info that you need is to click on the wish list that you're seeing up on the screen here. Click on that poll. Would a data sheet be helpful? A white paper, pricing details? I saw a couple of requests for that. Another easy way to get that answer back is to click on this wish list here. Click on that request for pricing information, and then Rubrik will follow up with you, giving you exactly what you need and only that. So this is a great way to hit that easy button and make sure that you get the information that you are looking for. So click on that wish list. Also, make sure you've opened up the handouts tab and check out the handout from Rubrik. This is a great way to follow up on our conversation. You can get that white paper on Rubrik, Zero Trust for Microsoft Environments. I love Zero Trust. I love the NIST pillars. I think it's so interesting. Whether you're an M365 user or not, there is something interesting for you in this white paper. So be sure that you've downloaded that. Spend some time with that, exploring after we wrap, which is coming up quickly. But before we go, as you all know, I told you there was going to be a few more chances to win a prize, and I meant it. So true to my word, let's do our last two $300 Amazon gift cards, and then I will read the entire winners list for you. All right. So our last two winners of a $300 Amazon gift card are Adam Downis from Louisiana. That's Adam Downis from Louisiana, and Manny Punzo from Arizona. Manny Punzo from Arizona. Manny, it is snowing where I am right now, so I'm a little mad at you that you get all the Arizona sunshine and a prize, but you know what? I'll forgive you. All right, our full winners list: Joshua Clark from Missouri, Adam Downis from Louisiana, and Manny Punzo from Arizona have each won a $300 Amazon gift card. We will be following up with you after we wrap, so stay tuned for that, and keep in mind we've got that $50 Amazon gift card from each one of our sessions. And we will be evaluating all the questions asked after we wrap, and then we will follow up with those winners. So there's still a chance that you'll hear from us about that. All right, well, my friends, that brings us to the end of our EcoCast today. I do want to remind you that if you are here thinking, man, this has been a great time and I have a story I would like to tell, well, we would absolutely love to help you do that. So shoot us an email at connect@actualtechmedia.com and let us know that you want to get involved. You want to present on a summit, an EcoCast, a megacast, a webinar, whatever you've got in mind. We've got something for you. So shoot us that message, let's get that conversation rolling. All right. Well, with that, my friends, on behalf of the Actual Tech Media team, I want to once again thank our speakers here with us today from Clumio and from Rubrik for making this EcoCast possible, for being here, answering some questions, and really helping us explore some of these topics today. And that, of course, brings me to all of you, because the biggest thank you always has to go to all of you out there in our community for coming, for giving us some of your time. I know life is crazy as we come back from the holidays. Some of you got breaks and some of you didn't, but regardless, I know we're all kind of feeling that, what's the big joke? Everyone said that they would circle back after the holidays, and now everyone's circling back. So in the midst of all the circling back, I really appreciate you taking time out of your day and spending some of that time with us here. I think that we got into some of those hot topics, the AI, ML, budgets, disaster recovery versus backup, and how all of these exciting things can fit in with your cloud infrastructure. And these are important conversations to be having. So I hope that you've gotten some interesting ideas, some best practices, some tips, maybe some things that you want to leave and spend a little time exploring, maybe some things that make you feel a little bit more relieved or relaxed because there's solutions out there to some of the problems that you're probably working through as we start up in the new year. So lots of cool things coming your way. And best of all, I hope you just had fun. I hope you had a good time today. That's why we're here, right? Is to learn some stuff and have a good time. All right. Well, speaking of which, I hope that you'll all come back and join us again tomorrow. We have another EcoCast for you on Thursday, January 11th at noon Eastern, 9 a.m. Pacific. We're going to be talking about protecting endpoints, understanding human and technical solutions. This is one of my favorite things to get into, is that crossover between technology and humans. It's why I love Zero Trust. It's why I really dig the NIST pillars. This kind of endpoint protection is something that is a really interesting cross point of psychology and technology, and that is so cool. So please do come hang out with us tomorrow, Thursday, January 11th, noon Eastern, 9 a.m. Pacific. All right. Well, that's everything we have for you today. This has been a great first EcoCast back. I'm so happy we got to share this together. I cannot wait to keep rolling with the next one. So I will see you again tomorrow, I hope. And until then, have an absolutely beautiful end to your day.